Good morning everyone, I'm Annie, and you guys obviously now know that I'm really bad at TBRs and really bad at setting myself up to read specific books. And that is something I am actually trying to work on. I am trying to work on that in the second half of this year. I've set myself up a couple of challenges which will be coming in the form of reading vlogs. They're within kind of a bit of a theme. You'll find out more about them later. What other books on my shelf have I not read? Quite a few. I am currently on a book buying ban, so I figured this would be a great mental refresh for myself to go through everything that I haven't read yet, everything on my shelf that I can read, so that I stop buying more books. Now, I have recently signed myself up for a free trial of Kindle Unlimited, and in all honesty, I am probably going to keep it, which kind of makes the whole book buying ban thing not quite so painful because there are quite a lot of things on Kindle Unlimited that obviously I would then have access to. But I figured we would go through my shelf here and figure out what I haven't read yet. Alright, I gotta stand on this chair to get to that top shelf because I am way too short for this. So let's start with a few that I have started and not yet finished. We have Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. I don't even know how far through this I got because I literally took out the bookmark, but I don't think it was very far. When I started reading it, it was just like not really the right time. I was really not in like an epic fantasy mood, and that is very much what this is. So it's kind of one of those ones I started and I was like, not the vibe right now, and then put it back down. Small Favours by Erin A. Craig. This is actually a really good one. I was really enjoying this. I really like Erin's books because they're like these like beautifully floppy paperbacks, but this is like it's kind of like a little bit thriller vibes. I wouldn't say it's horror as such, but like it's very much one that you have to like kind of pay attention and like apply some brain power to read it. And I got through like part 1. I think I was into part 2, Autumn. And I literally, look, I haven't even started Autumn, but you know, it was very interesting. It was very intriguing. Like I said, I feel like it's the kind of thing you have to play brain power to, so I might need to do like a TLDR catch up as and when I get back to this one. We have The Last Wish, which is the book 1 of the Witcher series. I love the TV programme. I'm not going to go into the drama of that because that is way too much to unpack, but I really like the TV series, and that was kind of why I picked this up, because obviously, as we all know, the book is always better than the TV series. But this is a little bit like season 1 in the fact of it's kind of a little bit all over the place, and you've got like these short stories that are all kind of connected together. And again, I took the bookmark out. I don't know where I got to, but I have a long-standing history of not really doing too well with short stories, which is why I put this one down. Then we have The Prior of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, this was one that I started reading with book club, like, gosh, ages ago. I literally was scrolling back on my Instagram the other day and I posted about this as I started it, and I was really loving the beginning of it, and then it just kind of started to get really slow. Again, something that I generally don't like in books is slow pacing, so it really wasn't doing it for me. My friend in book club, who is quite similar to me in that sense, they continued reading it, and then after a couple more chapters, to be fair, he got through a fair few chapters than I did. I only got to chapter 8 and I was like, I'm done with this. I think he got through to like chapter 10 or chapter 12 or something, and then was like, yeah, no, I can't do it anymore. It is quite a slow-paced book. It's not really my favourite, but I know there's a lot of people that really love it, so I feel guilty saying that. So it's on my list of eventually I will probably come back around to this, but I know that like I'll probably end up doing like a read a chunk and then like sidetrack myself with a romance for a few days and then get back to it. So it'll be like one of those ones that you pick up, put down for a couple of months. Next we have The Witches of Vardo by Anya Bergman. Now this was one that I picked up because the title and the cover just really intrigued me. And actually when I read the blurb I was like, oh my gosh, this is definitely something that I would be into. It's kind of, it's a little bit historical. I feel like it's kind of like historical fantasy, but with like a possible edge of truth to it. So I'm quite intrigued by it. I think it will be quite a fun one to read when I get there, but I am at the moment saving this for a reading vlog, which of course it's kind of one of those things that I keep pushing back and back because I get distracted by other books and new things. Next we have Dragon Song by Michael Forrester. Now this was one that I actually picked up when I saw him at like one of these like county show things, and I was really intrigued by the cover obviously, and we picked up a couple of books from him. So it's actually really quite nice because I've got it signed, which is really cute. But this is like very much like epic fantasy. I mean, if you couldn't tell by the dragon on the front, of course it's going to be an epic fantasy. But literally on the back it says a unique epic fantasy that explores fundamental themes of good and evil, jealousy and revenge. So I feel like it could be really intriguing. Again, it's just one of those things that's just kind of sat there, and I feel like because a lot of like these books are all sat on like the very top shelf, and where I've currently got the lamp, like I can't really access the shelf very easily, so we might be having to do a little bit of a redesign and a reorganization of where the lamp sits because it's a bit awkward. Alright, let's just power through these last ones on the top shelf. So we've got Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which is very similar to Dragon's Keeper. The Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. Again, it's just very much like wasn't quite in the mood after I bought it. I think these were the ones that I bought before I had like a huge couple year long reading slump, which probably doesn't help either. But it's a really nice cover, I really like it, and like when I read the back I'm like, oh, that sounds like it would be so good, I just haven't gone that far. Queen of Myth and Monsters by Scarlett St. Clair. This is book 2 in the series. I really enjoyed book 1, but where I've heard so much about book 2, I'm almost like nervous to start it because I really liked book 1 and a lot of people don't like this, and I'm like, I don't want to not like it because I really enjoyed book 1, so I'm really nervous to read this. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pennant. Again, this is one that I am saving for a reading blog as well, but like this cover is absolutely gorgeous. It's like giving very like, it's giving fantasy, it's giving intrigue, it's giving like mild thriller. I'm really quite excited to read this one. This one makes me really want to like just like get started like right this second. Every time I pick up this book I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so exciting. And then I put it down and I read something else. Book of Night by Holly Black. Again, this was one that I kind of heard a lot about until it ended up on my shelf, and then everyone was going like, oh no, it's bad, don't read it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, it's a bit late now, it's on my shelf. But I didn't really like the Folk of the Air series. Not because the way she writes, but just because the characters just didn't really gel with me. So I'm quite excited to see if this will change sort of my perspective, because I think this is meant to be slightly older. Something in my brain is telling me that this is meant to be an adult, whereas Folk of the Air was a young adult, so I'm hoping that this will do me a bit better. We have Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the 50th anniversary edition. Now, I really wanted to try read this to see if I could be a sci-fi girly, and I'm 22 pages in and it kind of stresses me out because it doesn't really seem like there's like chapters as such, and just kind of like the way it's laid out and the way that it's kind of starting, it's not really quite my vibe. Again, I think it's gonna be one of those ones I have to keep coming back to repeatedly, but who knows. Then we've got Flame and Starlight by Dana Isserly. Now this was one that I saw on TikTok and then I went ahead and like bought it straight away. These pages are literally stark white. Like, look at the difference in these pages, and I'm looking at this going, I'm gonna have a headache. So like I don't know when I'm gonna read this. I mean, the text is quite large, and like the little like, what's it, you get a little bit of art, the crown that you get on the chapters is quite cute, but these pages are like stark white, like almost blue, and I'm like, you're gonna give me a headache. Then we have Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. Now this one was gifted to me, and I think the main reason that I've been kind of like awkwardly avoiding picking up this book, like as good as it sounds, is kind of because I didn't really like the Divergent series, which I know a lot of people did, but it really just like wasn't my thing. I'm not really into that sort of like dystopian, and when I started reading it I was very much like moving into like an adult vibe of things, and it was like very like early YA of like she's the only girl, and I think that kind of makes me nervous to read this, although I don't really know too much. Oh, here we go. It includes Divergent epilogue. Yeah, that I will not be reading because I have zero zero interest in that. However, I don't know, I feel like there's something again telling me in the back of my mind that this is like a little bit older. Breathtaking fantasy captures unusual friendship, an epic love story, and a galaxy-sweeping adventure. Not really a sci-fi girly, I'm here for the love story, but I don't know, it just kind of makes me a little bit nervous. Alright, the next shelf down is like literally just Greek mythology, which literally all bar basically these I have read. So we've got Ithaca by Claire North. Now I'm actually really excited to read this because I really love the story of Odysseus. So I'm really interested to see how we get things from Penelope's point of view. So this is one that is quite high up on my I really want to read this, but I don't have it like planned into any sort of vlog or anything. But you know, I've also got like a cute little bookmark with it, which I think is really adorable. I really do like the art. I spoke about this in a video not too long ago, so I'm not going to go into like loads and loads of detail, but this is one that I think is going to be a really, really good read. And then I'm not going to get down the whole Trials of Apollo series, but this is the ones that I haven't yet read of Rick Riordan's. I've read this one, and I think I started book 2 and then stopped because reading slump. And then I've bought myself 3 and 4, and I'm still trying to find book 5 to get that actually on my shelf, so I can't wait for that to be found and arrive. But this is basically the only series of the Greek side of things that I haven't read of Rick Riordan's, so I'm not going to get down the whole series, but you get it. 1 through 5. I mean, 1 needs rereading because I really don't remember anything, but 2 till 5 needs reading. So this shelf is a little bit easier for me to just kind of like grab and put back because it's right down here. So we've got Metamorphoses by Ovid. Now I have started this. This is like all of like the beginning of this anyway is like the Romans kind of story of the origin of the world. This is obviously rather chunky, so it's going to take me a while to get through, and it's definitely, I know 100% it's going to be one of the kind of things that you just like pick up and put down kind of as and when you please. So I'm not too worried about reading this in like a specific set time, because obviously it is written in verse, so it takes a little bit of brain power to really get it. We have Game of Retribution by Scarlett St. Clair. This is actually my friend's copy that she's lent to me because we're kind of reading the series together, but like not like directly at the same time. So this is the one that I haven't read yet. I know the next one is coming out in like a week and a half, and I haven't read this one because this is the Hades storyline rather than the Persephone storyline, but they kind of intermingle and they kind of match at various points, and my brain is just kind of like, well, I feel like I've read it because I've read it from her point of view, but I know it's going to be different, and I just like keep putting it off. Then I've got Neil Gaiman, Norse Mythology, and again, this was one that I just kind of started reading, and then I was like, I'm not really in the vibe for Norse mythology. I got this as a gift, and it was very much when I was like, I literally just want to read Greek mythology. And then as soon as I finished that, I was like, oh, maybe I could pick this up again. And then I was like, I just want romance. And this kind of really hasn't made it back into that kind of rotation. Norse mythology is not one that I know loads about, so I think that's kind of almost why it's harder for me to get into the vibe and into the feel of Norse mythology, because it's not my go-to. It's not something I reach for on the regular. Then we have the Kane Chronicles. So we've got 1, 2, and 3 by Rick Riordan. This is the Egyptian set. And I remember I started reading The Red Pyramid, which is the first one, a couple of years ago, and then it just wasn't really doing it for me at that moment in time. Like, I thought it was a good story, but I was like, oh, it's just not really quite what I want, and then I put it down. And then when I moved house a couple of years ago, I ended up donating a whole bunch of books that I'd had for years and hadn't like read or wasn't going to reread. And then my husband rebought this for me for my birthday. He basically filled out the rest of my collection of Rick Riordan except for that one from Trials of Apollo, but I'm working on it. So I haven't read any of these. I think I've read like half of this first one, but as far as I'm concerned, that kind of doesn't really count. I need to get back to it, but again, Egyptian mythology, a bit like Norse mythology, is not something I reach for on the regular, so I don't know how long it's going to stay unread, but I will get myself around to it. So we've got Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. Now, again, this is one I am a little bit excited to read. I spoke about this in a video recently talking about summer romances, and this is a rom-com, which is not something that I'm particularly au fait with. I don't generally read many rom-coms, not particularly out of choice, just the ones I tend to reach for are a little bit darker usually. So I think reading a cutesy little rom-com is going to be quite exciting, and because it's got this like fantasy element to it, I think that's going to like really help me get so invested in it. Alright, and last ones on this shelf, we've got Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy. Again, I picked this up because I heard a lot of things about it on TikTok back when I had TikTok, and then I just kind of haven't really done anything with it. But you know, it sounds kind of dark because they talk about ferrying spirits of the dead to the afterlife, and I'm like, that sounds like my cup of tea. But again, it's just kind of one of those things that is when I'm like looking at my shelf looking for the next book to read, it just kind of doesn't really stick out enough for me to go, oh yes, you. So then we've got Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tommy Adeyemi. Now, I started reading this a number of years ago, and I think I got like most of the way through, and right about the time when we were moving, as we were moving, the bookmark fell out. And well, we moved back in 2019, so that's how long I haven't touched this book really. So I know I'm gonna have to start it again, and then obviously I've got the second one, and I heard she was turning into like a TV series or a film, and she was working on the script for that, so I'm so excited. And as soon that definitely means that I need to get on with reading these two, because I want to know everything before that comes out, because I am definitely gonna want to watch it. Defy the Night, I am not even going to try and say British surname because I can never get it right. But I read the Curse So Dark and Lonely series. I do have one left in that, which is coming up in a video soon. But I picked this up because I did really like A Curse So Dark and Lonely and that series, and it was kind of like cutesy YA. And this kind of like continues from that. I think it's like within the same world, I believe, but it's just like a different part of the world, or it's like later on in the timeline. I can't really remember off the top of my head. This came out a couple of years ago and I haven't really touched it, and I think book 3 is either about to come out or has just come out or something along those lines, so I need to get on with this. And then we have Lady Smoke and Ember Queen by Laura Sebastian. I read book 1, which is Ash Princess, which is currently out on loan to a friend of mine, and I really liked it. It was like a very cute early YA kind of like romance where it's like, oh, the princess has got to like save her people, but like, you know, there was a lot of like war and stuff that had gone on in the world, and there was like a cute little romance. And then as I read the blurb for Lady Smoke, which is book 2, and then it's like completely not even going in the direction that I thought it was going to be going in, and I'm like, excuse me, I was expecting something and I'm not getting it. And I think that's kind of why I'm digging my heels in with reading it a little bit, because I sort of like had an idea at the end of book 1 as to where it was going, and it's like not going that way, and I'm like, sorry, no, I did not ask for this. So I mean, the way that it sounds like it's going to be quite good. And then obviously we've then got the last one, which kind of wraps everything up. So I think it will be a really good one, but it's not going in the direction I thought it was going to go in. I'm a little bit sad, I'm a little bit annoyed, and that's what's made me stop from reading this. There is like literally nothing on this shelf that I haven't read. This is like my little romancy section. We've got contemporaries, and then we've got the Bridgerton series of what I have access to right now. So the only ones that I haven't read is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is like basically just come out the last like week or so. I'm really excited to read this. I feel like all of her male main characters are kind of the same, but at the same time, you know, when it's good, when it works, don't change it. Don't fix something that ain't broken. X's and O's by Amy Lee. So we've got Tara, who is a bookstagrammer girly, who is the little sister of Crystal, who we met in Set on You. I feel like this is going to be really good. It's like very romance. She's obviously a romance book lover herself. Tara, the character, not just the author, but so she is looking for like a specific trope in her love life, and I feel like it's going to be really cute, but also like kind of a little bit heartbreaking as well. And I really love the fact that Set on You wasn't just about the romance, it was about like her social media life and how that affects her as well. So I have high expectations for this. And then a friend of mine has lent me Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. She's lent it to me for like a very specific reason. It's like very much up her street, and it's like a little bit different to what I would normally read. It's like sort of a little bit historical. I think it's got a little bit of romance in it, but I'm not overly sure. Yeah, when two young men from town become intrigued by her wild beauty, Kaya opens herself to a new life until the unthinkable happens. So I feel like there's going to be kind of like a few different bits and pieces in here of like stuff that I'm kind of more used to reading, as well as stuff that's going to like kind of challenge me a little bit in terms of like, I feel like there's a little bit of like a thriller aspect to this, which I think is going to be quite exciting for me because it's not something I read very often. Alright, so moving quickly because I am very quickly running out of battery. So we've got The Queen's Gambit by Walter Travis. Basically, I bought this because I really enjoyed the TV program, and then I realised it was based on a book, so I was like, well, let's get the book. And then I just like haven't read it. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was one that I have just not stopped hearing about. Anyone who talks about Taylor Jenkins Reid, this book is mentioned. It's been on my list for ages. I finally managed to get around to getting hold of it, and it's just kind of stayed on the shelf, and I haven't really picked it up. Well, I haven't picked it up, but it does sound quite interesting. And again, it's like that kind of like historical, there's a little bit of romance but a little bit of thriller in it, so I feel like it's going to be kind of similar is sort of experience to Where the Crawdads Sing, so I'm really quite excited for that. Then I have Glint and Gleam by Raven Kennedy. These are 2 and 3 of the Plated Prisoner series. I don't have all of them as yet. I really enjoyed Guild, which is the first one, and I don't really have a reason as to why I didn't start book 2 straight away. Maybe just, I think I was just excited about reading something else that had like just come out. I don't know. In all honesty, with only 10% left of battery and an entire bottom shelf that is 1 really awkward to access and 2 entirely unread and 3 98% YA, I'm not going to pull out every single book, but there's still like a whole shelf that I haven't basically touched like at all, which is all like YA fantasy. So we're just gonna kind of gloss over that. You can't see it where the chair is, so we don't need to think about it. But then as I start to read some of the books from the top, and probably in this like kind of middle section, I'll start to rotate them out. So I have loads of books that I can read and will be reading at some point. So being on a book buying down for probably most of the rest of the year is not really such a hardship. I'm probably going to get through most of these, and like I said, I do now have Kindle Unlimited, at least for a short time, but I'll probably end up keeping it in all honesty. So I'm going to be reading a little bit more on Kindle, as well as actually finally getting through the books that are on my shelf in various reading blogs and bits and pieces. So from all of these books, which ones are you most excited to see me read or want me to talk about? Let me know down in the comments. I have a couple of reading blogs that I have planned and lined up with various bits and pieces. So if there is a vibe that you want me to do a reading vlog on, or just a chitty chat about, let me know. Pop me a message on Instagram. I am back on Instagram for the foreseeable. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but I am on Instagram again for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, stick it in the comments down below while you're down there, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.